Today in the morning, I had a math class with Andre. Actually, he was asking me when I can take a math test. I said to him that I just started my verbal preparation. So,
But take the quant ones though. I mean, you don't need to take the whole thing because I mean, for the mock test with us for verbal, it's gonna take some time though.
yeah,
It's gonna take some time. So just take the quant ones.
I asked Andre uh, because I want to apply or to one of the universities this year, and I know that the
Yes.
time is in September. What time or in what month you think I I had to have all the grades and all the
I mean, it's if you want to apply first round September, you should be ready. You should close the GMAT by July. All right,
okay,
and then by early July, and then July and August you should be working on your essays
okay, yeah,
and the transcripts and your recommendation letters of recommendation, right? Cover letter, etc. So that would be the optimal situation
okay,
for you to finish at most the GMAT at most the first week of July.
okay, okay.
Okay.
If I can do it sooner, I think
Of
is better,
course,
right?
if you can do it sooner, the better. I think you right now, as we mentioned, your pack is for anywhere from 28 to 30 something hours, right?
Yeah,
And we are set to be ready with 28 hours here. When let's see,
yeah,
let me
28
see where
to 24. I
have
don't know, around, don't remember.
here I have with you this pack. We have it until the 18th of May. All
Okay,
right, I think we might miss some hours as we mentioned before, right? So to complete the package should be 2 more weeks maybe. So we should be done by May. So by June you should be taking your exam first week of June at most.
okay.
June. All right.
I hope so.
So that's the important thing. So you should be with mocks for verbal starting maybe the second week of July. Oh of May. Of May.
Okay, okay.
Second week
Got
of
it.
May. All right. So the last 2 weeks just full mocks.
I
That's
don't. I want to ask this to some expert or someone who really knows that how this process goes. Can
where you
I
where you where you applying?
at other universities?
Yeah.
I am maybe well. I would try all. First, I want to know which is what is my score.
Yes.
But I really hope to get in the that analytics ones. So I consider Stern, Cornell, maybe Ross. Yeah. So
Yeah.
so
I mean, we've got a couple of students accepted at Ross's time. NYU has been difficult. The two students from three students that applied with me, one got in the waiting list, the other two got rejected, and then the other is Cornell. I don't think there was this year somebody from Cornell. I'm not sure, but we have two from Ross,
okay.
from Michigan.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
right now I just waiting for my score. But yeah, if I apply in September, I can retake the GMAT and go for the
of
second
course. I
round
mean, if you don't go for, I'm sorry for what?
for the second round in January.
What do you mean? I mean, like,
If I
if you apply to the first round, if you can retake it
yeah, I can retake the GMAT and apply with this new score, or you can't.
in the same university,
No, well, in a different one,
yeah,
maybe.
of course you can. Definitely. I mean, it's independent, right? I mean, you can take it later on. Now, notice though that by the end of the year, the GMAT is going to change. You do know
I
that,
know
right?
that. Yeah,
That the GMAT is going to change. It might be the new focus edition. It's going to be more simple, more. It's going to be easier actually. But even though it's going to be easier, the first few months there's not too much practice material as we have for the GMAT because we have over 20 years of material from the GMAT questions, right?
yeah.
So with the new focus edition, you won't have you only have one book, all right? So that might be a little tricky, but we kind of know what's coming in that focus edition. But that should be releasing around January, maybe December, okay? But if you do take the GMAT again, Yeah, you can apply that for with a bigger score. Also, you can take the EA maybe. So, for example, NYU takes the EA.
What's that?
If you want to play to NYU Stern, you better off taking the EA,
What's that?
executive assessment,
Is what's that?
executive assessment.
Ah, okay.
You're better off because the executive assessment is easier than the GMAT. It takes less time, and your score looks bigger. Your score
Oh,
looks bigger. For example, I've had students who were scoring 640 on the GMAT, and that was their top, and they were in a rush, so they couldn't spend more time,
yeah.
and they ended up taking the EA, and they got a 155, 154, which is a good score. You see,
Okay.
so that looks better for NYU. You can do that. So some
Yeah.
schools take the EA, not all of them though.
With that I can get into a. I don't know. I know it depends on my score, but you can get with an EA scholarship or something like that.
Yeah, of course you can get a scholarship.
Or
Yeah, that's no, the scholarship depends on this. I mean, first of all, usually they're gonna give a scholarship. All right, maybe 10% or so. All right, if
okay.
you want to negotiate a bigger scholarship, what's gonna matter is how many other schools have accepted you.
Oh,
That's what
okay.
matters. So if
Okay.
you go there and you say, all right, four schools accepted me, then you negotiate a scholarship, and you're gonna get a good scholarship, depending on the other schools. So if
Oh,
you say, for example, Harvard, Stanford, MIT want me, of
okay.
course you're gonna get a scholarship, right? That's the way. If you only apply to one school and you only get accepted at one of them, then it's difficult. But of course, I mean, you can try, but it's gonna be difficult. But it will depend on how many schools accepted you. Now, usually people need to structure their rounds, right? So on the first round, usually you will apply to the university you want the most,
Okay.
the one that you want the most. For example, you are in love with NYU, you go to NYU in the first round. Well, maybe you prepare other things, right, for the other schools. Then the second round, you go to a couple more, and by that time, NYU should have already called you for the interview, all right? December around that date, or maybe they even gave you a decision already. So if NYU accepts you, then you don't apply anymore. You see, so you save all the time and money.
Okay.
That's usually what people do. Okay, so yeah, I mean, but you want Cornell and NYU and Ross. Yeah, I mean Ross with a 660, 670 is enough,
Oh yeah.
more than enough. It's not. I mean, as long as you have a good quant background.
Okay.
If let's say if you what major are you?
And finance. Well, right now I work in finance.
What major though? ¿Qué título?
Sorry. Business management, administration here.
Or administration.
Yeah.
Right. That's kind of okay. Yeah, that's fine. But I mean, if you have good quant skills, they will accept you even with a 640. With a 640.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. Yeah,
Mm.
I've had a student last year enter with a 640 to Michigan Russ, but he was very good at quant in college.
Okay. Okay.
So that's the thing. Now you've taken the TOEFL already or the IELTS also.
I will take the IELTS because I think that will give me more. Because I also want to apply to Canadian universities in my second round for
Yeah,
like second
they take
chance.
the TOEFL too. I mean, that's not a problem with most MBA degrees because they're international. They take both usually.
Yeah.
In Canada, I mean, Canada is easy except for
Rio.
Toronto,
Yeah.
Rodman. That's the only one that's difficult. The other ones are kind of easy. Okay.
Okay.
So what are we doing here for sentence correction? You remember where we left off last time?
Yeah.
Parallelism, I think it was right.
Yeah. I was in parallelism. You left me some homework.
Homework, yeah. How do you do with homework? 1.1 to 1.3.
Well, I want to say that I could do it better. Actually, I could do it better. I did it yesterday in the night. It was very late. I was a little bit tired. But in my first, in the easy ones, I got 6 out of 10. But then I review it, and one of my mistake was a mistake because I put the wrong answer by mistake.
Or you marked wrong.
Yeah, I marked wrong. It was it was a slip.
You were asleep. Okay, that's
Yeah.
right.
Um. Well.
Oh, yeah, it was asleep actually. Right,
Yeah.
it was asleep. That's good. And did you watch the videos,
Yeah,
the
I
resolution
watched the
videos?
first one. Ah, well, to finish, in the medium level, that was my worst. I think I don't know what happened. I got, I think, 3 out of 8. I didn't review it yet. I wanna do it today. And on the hard level, I got 50%. So 3 out of 6.
That's okay. That's okay. The good, important thing is that we are applying everything we learned in the first lesson, right? Because there are a lot of theory we don't know yet, right? I mean, what you do know, but we haven't really incorporated yet, right?
Okay, yeah, yeah.
So last time we were doing this one called correlatives. We did coordinate conjunctions, and we finished here with this linking verb to be, right? Now, so far, just to do a little recap of parallelism, we've mentioned that there are two types of parallelism that we have to apply at the same time: logical parallelism and structural parallelism, right? And we've also mentioned that there are four markers, and we only apply parallelism when we have any of these markers. Coordinating connectors, which are the fanboys, right? Fanboys. The correlative idioms, which you already know both x and y between x and y idioms, right? Not only x, but also y. The linking verb to be, which is very uncommon. And then the comparisons that we're going to see in a different lesson. Remember that? Are we okay with that?
Yeah, yeah. I remember
Perfect.
that. Yeah.
So now we're going to start talking a little bit about some special rules here. So, for example, the subordinate clauses have special rules for parallelism. Okay, here they say a subordinate clause is usually only parallel to another subordinate clause. So basically, a subordinate clause and a main clause are not going to be parallel. They are different structures. Okay, with a few exceptions regarding relative pronouns. They say, all right, there are a few exceptions we're going to see later. When making subordinate clauses parallel, we must observe the following rules. We have two rules here. Rule number one: a subordinate clause is usually only parallel to another subordinate clause that starts with the same subordinator. This one is an extra additional requirement. Okay, that's very strange, let's say, to say the least. Okay, because most of the lists won't ask you for that requirement. So basically, they're saying if you have a subordinate clause, you have a subject plus a verb, right? Can you give me one subordinator?
One subordinator. A fanboy one. That's a
Fanboy is
coordinator.
not
That's
subordinators.
a coordinator, right?
That's coordinator, yeah.
A subordinator could be like uh uh 4. I don't know. I don't
Nope,
remember.
four is a fanboy. All right,
Um.
the lists are crucial. Memorize those lists, okay?
Yeah.
By
Okay.
the end of that sentence correction course, we have to memorize 25 subordinators. We have to start right now memorizing 6 or 7.
Okay.
The ones we want to know are this: because,
Although.
although,
Yeah.
while, if,
So,
unless,
some are
when.
subordinators. No.
No, sanam are prepositions.
Preposition. Okay.
I'm sorry, are pronouns. Pronouns. So
Uh,
a weird type of pronouns,
okay.
right? We have because of the while, if, unless, when, that. So far, we have those. We're going to start adding more and more, okay? But in the meantime, let's just have those clear. So let's say we have because, right?
Okay.
Because plus is subject, plus that's a subordinate clause. And then I have my parallelism. Let's say I have and, that's my marker, my coordinator. On the other side, I have something like if plus subject plus verb. The theory tells you even though those are two subordinate clauses, they are not going to be parallel. That's very, very weird to make those two parallel. Even though you have the same subordinate, oh, you have two subordinate clauses, right? That's the parallelism for subordinate clauses requires you to have the same subordinator, and if and because are not the same.
Okay. Got it.
Okay, that's weird though because most of the release, for example, when you're dealing with prepositions, right, and you have in the room or on the chair. Those two are parallel. Why? Because you have two prepositional phrases.
Are
They
not the
don't need to
same.
have the same word. They don't need to have the
Oh.
same word. Most of the lists don't need to have the exact same word. With words that are within the list or inside the list, that's fine. But the subordinators are special.
Okay.
They
Only with the
want you to have the
subordinator.
same subordinate. Yeah, exactly. That's a special rule for a subordinator.
Okay.
The subordinators are more picky, more choosy. Okay,
Okay.
good. That's the first rule. Rule number two, they tell you do not factorize the subordinators. That's again another special weird rule, right? Normally, we love to factorize. We like to factorize because that makes our sentences more simple, more shorter. Also, right? For example, if I say, "I can go to that store or go to the mall," what do? I say, I can go to the store or go to the mall. So I'm repeating, right? I go to the store, go to the mall. So what I do normally would be to factorize, we call this ellipsis, right? This part. So I don't say that. I say, I can go to the store or the mall. Well, the mall, right? So
Okay.
I don't say go to. I kind of factorize it like in math, right?
Yeah.
I factorize those common elements, so I make my sentence shorter. We like to do that all the time, but the subordinators have a rule that prohibits you to do that, right? So if you have, for example, let's say a sentence, right? If plus subject plus verb, and then you have and. If plus subject, so you have two subordinate clauses with if, right? You cannot factorize the second if. You shouldn't. You should leave it like that,
Okay.
right? So that's the second rule for subordinate clauses. That's tricky too. Okay, so those are two things, two special rules for subordinate clauses. Let's see now what's wrong about this.
About about this
The one that
car.
says wrong.
ab-
Yes.
About this car because it is fast and oh, okay. There is no because
They're
after.
factorizing
Okay.
because, right? It looks like they're
Okay.
factorizing, and that's wrong. Okay, why is that wrong? Because it sounds when they do this, this one looks, it no longer looks like a subordinate clause. It looks like a main clause. You see?
Okay.
It looks like a main clause that is being parallel to the main clause here, I bought. And that's not what they intended, right? What they are intending is to make because it is fast and because the price was good. Those two sentences, those two subordinate clauses to be parallel. So that's why it's wrong, right? But yeah, just to summarize that, we need to leave the subordinator. Good. So this one's missing a because. Is everything clear so far?
Yeah.
Perfect. So now let's go here and let's see which one's the answer. Let's focus on this part here.
Mm, could be. I don't know. Maybe could be letter E
Okay, why? Let's see. Why E? How do you
because
start eliminating here?
well, first I know the rule that we just talked about. If it's a subordinator, it have to be twice there.
Hmm.
So, however, it's a subordinator, right? And
Yeah, but in this case, that's not a subordinate clause.
okay,
Let's see.
well,
When we start parallelism, we always want to start it on the right. So you have your marker here.
okay, that
What do you have on the right?
that. So, however, is a subordinator, but also that, right?
Right, but now when we talk about subordinators, what we are referring to in this theory is subordinate clauses.
Okay,
The
subordinate clause.
subordinator plus a clause.
Okay, okay.
So
So,
in this case, what do you have on the right of and?
a subordinate
The
clause.
structure, subordinate clause, right?
Yeah.
That clause, subordinate clause with that. Good. So you need when you would need to look.
a
for
subordinate
a that
clause.
clause on the left.
Yeah,
Yes.
and the only ones who have that is the first one and the last one, letter A
Nice.
and E.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, why do you go with E and not A?
Well, I however much the supporters may agree, the supporters that I think is well, I found it more logically logical. I don't know.
What's wrong about the meaning in A? Because if you say it's more logical, you have to indicate why letter A doesn't make too much sense.
However much United States voters may agree that there is a waste in government. Well, I'm not sure really. I just
That's good. If you're not sure,
like
what should you leave it, right?
yeah.
Leave it. Because if you're going to change the meaning, we know something though. These two have different meanings, right?
Yeah.
If we're going to change the meaning, it has to be because we see something wrong with the first one. That's it. If we don't see something wrong with the first one, then we shouldn't change it.
Okay.
However much it's okay. May is good too because May is giving you like a likelihood, a possibility, right? It's not a statement, it's something like a probability. Now this one removes May. You see?
Yeah.
So now we call those modal verbs, modal helping verbs, right? May, might. There's a list that we have to memorize, and we have the list in the file of important lists.
Hmm.
May, might, can, could, will, would, should, and must. Should, must. Okay, those give you tons of meaning. So if they change them, basically they would be changing the meaning. Okay, so in this case, they're removing may, and by removing may, they're changing the meaning because they are no longer talking about a possibility. They're talking about a statement.
Okay.
Okay, so in this case, we go with A. There was nothing wrong with the meaning of A. Letter E makes sense also. Yeah, it makes sense too, but it's a different meaning.
So the statement in letter E is a fact.
It's a fact. It's not wrong per se. It's just that it's different
Okay.
than the intention of the author.
Okay. Got it.
Nice. So far good. What about number 9?
Mm, Um, where is a subordinator, right?
Where is a subordinator? Yes, also. Where is also a subordinator? And
Okay.
so is that. Those are two subordinators.
Okay. So could be letter E again,
Nice, very good. Why?
because I have the subordinator where,
Hmm.
and after the uh, conjunction and, I have another other coordinator, and I have the where again. I was
Okay, so in letter A, they're mixing that with where, right?
yeah, they
And we don't
mixing that.
like that because we need to have the same subordinator. That's one of the basic theories. Nice. So
And
that's not going to be the answer.
Rod,
What about the other ones?
I have a question. It doesn't matter what it becomes after the where. So, because in the first word, after it comes, there is, so kind of like a pronoun, something like that.
After the where?
Yeah, is there is, and the other one
Uh,
is this predator. So it doesn't matter. It just matter.
but in the first one, they say where this predator, right?
Yeah.
The second one also. So the population. I mean, doesn't matter. I mean, maybe the meaning is changing a little bit. Yes,
Okay.
maybe the meaning changes a little bit. But let's apply here the rules of elimination. We
Okay.
have 6 steps. So the meaning changes is 4, right? 4 is the changing meaning. But in letter the first one, there is a bigger problem, right? That they're making a wrong parallelism. So the problem is bigger.
Okay, got it.
So even if letter A has a correct meaning, we have to change it a little bit in order to favor the grammar.
Okay.
So the first one's out. What about the letter C also? What about the other two?
Well, letter B also they mix subordinators that with where.
Okay, but they mix. What theory are you applying here? Parallelism.
Oh well, I can apply parallelism there because there is
There
no
is no marker,
subordinator.
right? So if there is no marker, we shouldn't apply parallelism.
Yeah, so I can eliminate that because there is no parallelism. Not right.
No, because you don't need parallelism. If you
So
have a marker, then you don't need it.
so I must find another error.
Another reason, exactly. There is another reason why that's wrong.
That's
And in
it.
this case, it's the modifiers actually that we don't know yet. But this where is talking about population.
Oh
Population is
yeah,
not a place,
it's not a place.
not a
It's
place, so that makes no sense.
it could be which maybe.
It would be yeah, which, but it wouldn't make sense with this one though. Should have been something like in which this new predator behaves this way. That would have been better.
Okay. Letter D, where the population was sizable, is okay. States for population. It maybe in letter D it could be it with a semicolon. It has something.
What's the theory of the semicolon? Very good. Semicolon is a very fast and very useful theory.
I don't know. It's only
When you
we
have a
only use for
semicolon, you gotta
lists.
have a main clause on the left and a main clause on the right. That's a theory.
Okay,
All
got it.
right, so you have to make sure of that. In this case, we do. In this case, we do have it. Okay, but now why is it better than D? Because the semicolon, even though it gives you a good connection, kind of breaks off the fluency. So it's kind of like a period, you see. So in
Okay,
this case, it kind of it's no longer so fluent.
okay,
So
got it.
we don't know where the action in the second clause is happening. On the first one, it was clear, right? So on letter E also, you say and where. So this where is referring to this where, and they're both talking about Minnesota. But on letter B, it's not clear what they're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
And
very good.
when
So
you have lists, a list of a list or two lists.
also you can use semicolons, but that's a very uncommon usage
Okay.
function of the semicolon. Normally, for the Gmail, you're going to have this. You have a semicolon, clause on the left, clause on the right. Nice. So far here we have past and present participles. This one's a little bit more tricky. Okay, they say a past participle and a present participle can function as a modifier. So what is a past participle? First and foremost, a past participle is one of those words that end with ed or en and that are not a verb in the past. For example, broken, plant, right? Those are past participles. Broken, planned, gone, obtained. Those, and when they're not behaving as verbs, they are past participles. Now, what is a present participle? Present participle is the technical word for the ing. Okay, for the ing basically. What is an ing? We know what an ing is, right?
Yeah.
So, for example, the word going would be ing, right? Taken, right? We know what that is. So basically, I tell you, normally a past participle and a present participle are not going to be parallel. Why? Because they have different structure. Easy, right? But they tell you the list goes like this. So when you have also this in the file of important lists. You have the functions for the past participle and the functions for the present participle, and they tell you the past participle has three functions. The present participle has four functions. And one function they have in common is when they're adjectives. They have in common. So they tell you, exceptionally, if both of these words, these types of words, are behaving as adjectives, they can be parallel without a problem. Okay? If both are adjectives that modify the same noun, they are fine. They can work.
if both are adjective and
that are
modifiers,
modifying the same noun,
say no.
they are going to be parallel without a problem.
Okay, but
Okay,
only with adjective or
only when they are adjectives, because if they have different functions, they are not going to be parallel.
okay.
Okay, so can you read this one for me, please?
Okay. Mary is caring and qualified nurse.
She is a caring and
A
qualified
qualified
nurse,
nurse.
right?
Yeah.
So in this case, you have two words, caring and qualified. Caring is what? A present
It's an
participle.
adjective. Ah, well, present participle.
Qualified is also past participle, right? They're both adjectives, though, so they're fine. They can be parallel. It's not a problem. You see?
Yeah, yeah.
So if there are two adjectives, they can be parallel, even though they have different structures,
Okay, got it.
right? Let's see this one. This one's a little bit tricky. Let's see how we do it.
Mm, so I can eliminate the letter E because I think it's redundant
Three. Why? Why redundancy?
with like he.
That's not. We don't call that redundant. We call that wordy. There's a difference between redundancy and repetitive, right?
Okay,
Repetitive goes with wordiness, so that's a minor thing. Redundancy is a big mistake. Redundancy, for example, when you say still continue, right? Still continue.
okay,
It's a big mistake. But if you just say you repeat the pronoun, that's just a little wordy, but that's not redundant.
okay. I can also eliminate is inspiring. I don't.
It's inspiring.
Yeah, letter D.
Why?
I don't.
So far, we haven't eliminated anything though. But why D? Why is D out?
Okay. Because I'm not sure that is the correct verb there.
Okay, but not being sure of something is not enough to eliminate it.
Yeah.
We have to say why that's wrong.
Okay.
Have to say why that's wrong. Apply here. We have to apply
I know
parallelism.
the parallelism.
Let's see.
Okay, but there's two parallelism though, like the first one and the second one, fans and opponents alike. So, well, I know that succeed, that could be maybe a ed, a past participle.
No, to succeed is well, whenever you have two
It's
plus a verb,
infinitive, right?
that's an infinitive, right?
Okay,
Yes.
and so I was looking at that, and okay, so here is no rule, I think, because or can be a rule just one with one type of verb, or have to be like a past participle and a present participle.
Oh, the rule tells you past participle and present participle when they are behaving as adjectives.
Okay, but it has to be both of them because here I have an infinitive. Can I have an infinitive and a present or a past?
Yeah, that's not part of the rule.
Okay, so okay. Um, well, if that is the case, I don't know if inspiring and inspired could be there.
Okay, why not? Because they are not part to succeed.
Yeah,
Okay, so let's eliminate those two. Then what? What else?
Okay.
What about inspires? Can inspires be part of to succeed?
Inspire inspires to succeed and inspires to fans. Well, if only for the sound, I will say it sounds okay to me, but I can eliminate or assure that is correct.
Right. I mean, we don't do this because of sound.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
but
know.
that's good. Now let's see. What's the mistake we're making? You have your marker here, and
Yeah,
you have here the thing that has to be part of, right?
yeah.
On the right now. And now you have decided to make parity to succeed. Why? Why only to succeed? Why couldn't it be parity, for example, will? Why couldn't it be parity with a prepositional phrase by a will? Why couldn't it be parity with driven
Mm,
or competitor? Why have you chosen to succeed? For example, if I say, I bought a house in the desert, let's say, desert, desert, and a car. So does it mean that when I have an ant, I apply to car and desert? That's what I'm trying to make parallel. No, right?
yeah.
It's car and house. So it doesn't apply a touch rule. There's no touch rule with parallelism. So in this case, we have to be open for all those combinations.
Oh, okay.
So whatever comes to the right of and can be parallel to succeed, which is an infinitive, right? Could be parallel to will, which is a noun. That's good. With by, which is a preposition, or with driven, which
It's a
is a
verb.
past participle.
Yeah.
So either of these four, either of those four. Now we know that nothing here is parallel to an infinitive, so that's out.
Oh, okay. Okay. So he inspires. Inspires is a noun.
Inspires is a verb.
Okay.
It's a verb in singular.
In singular, right? Yeah, okay.
Right.
So well, there is no noun there, so it could be a parallel with a noun, right?
Exactly. There is no noun, so that's out. Yeah. So there is no, but this one is actually a verb, not a noun.
Yeah, yeah. I was trying to confirm that. So I
Oh, this
now,
now here will. Yeah. There is
yeah,
no noun here in the answer choices.
yeah.
Exactly. So
Uh,
nothing could be parallel to will.
so there is no preposition either in the answer choices.
Very good. So that's out.
So
What about past participle? Is there a past participle here?
yeah. So in that way, it could be a present participle, a present, yeah, present participle. So it will be a ing. Could be the first
Nice.
one, right?
Could be the first one.
Yeah, I'm not sure that could be the is inspire because it's a verb plus,
That's a verb, so, right? A verb is not a participle, so that's
yeah.
out. That's out. Inspire verb out. What does he inspire? What structure is that?
That he is a pronoun, right?
Yes,
He inspired, so it's like a main class.
it's a main clause. So here we don't have a main clause, right?
No,
So that's out. So you are between inspiring and inspired. Those two.
so inspiring.
That's fine. Okay, why? Because inspiring is a present participle, and inspired is a past participle. Both of them could be parallel to a the word driven. Now we have to see. We have to check the meaning. Which one makes more sense?
Okay, for me is the first one because it's past participle with a present participle.
But why not past participle with past participle?
Could be that the rule allows that.
Parallelism allows that, right? I mean, the rule is an exception.
Okay,
The rule starts saying normally a past participle and a present participle are not
okay,
parallel. But maybe if we do something special, they are.
okay. So well, succeed and inspire to fans. It doesn't sound good because it's in the past. And he
The problem here is that when you have, let's see, when you have, those are two adjectives, right? What is the difference between saying, for example, the bored dog and the boring movie? Is there a difference or not?
Or dog. Boring movie.
Between the adjectives boring and bored.
Yeah, well, the tense is. But
Right, but the meaning. What
uh,
happens if I say that the bored movie? Would it make sense? Instead of boring movie, the bored movie.
no.
Why not? So this one actually, when you put an adjective in the ed, usually you're saying that that's a state
Okay.
that the noun has. If you have an adjective with an ing, you're saying that the noun causes something here. So the movie causes boredom. Well, the
Okay.
dog doesn't cause boredom. The dog feels bored. So that's the way they feel. That's the difference. So in this case, inspiring means that this guy inspires somebody else, while inspired means that this guy feels inspired by something. That's the main difference.
Okay. So he inspired is a state. So could be maybe inspiring.
But why though? Why the meaning requires that it's inspiring and not inspired? Or how do you get it?
What? Because it's what he caused.
What he caused, and we know that because of this preposition to, right? It's not by. If it were by, it would mean that he was inspired by defense. But in this case, it's to.
Okay, got it.
So he caused inspiration on defense. That's why we have to leave it the way it is. A.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yes.
That was a tricky one, right? So the
Mhm.
important thing with parallelism is that we have to sometimes we have to leave our options open to see what parallelism structure we have at that given moment. So now let's go here to number 11. That's similar to the one before.
Wow. Okay. So first, I did the same thing as you did before. I read all the words before the end. Mm, I think this trickier than the one before because
Hmm.
I'm not sure. I have two past participle verbs before.
What
So
are those two past participles?
expound and fertilize.
Very good. Okay, that's good. Those are the two that we want to evaluate. One of them is the correct parallelism that you're trying to make.
Okay. So I put expound. Participle by is a preposition, right?
Very good.
A single is like an adjective.
Very good. That's an adjective. Single is adjective.
Okay.
A is an article.
An article. Okay. Sport is a noun.
Yes.
Some is a pronoun or
An adjective in this case. Some. Da, da, da.
okay, an adjective. And 10,000 years ago is a noun.
Yes.
Okay. So the first thing I did was like there's no noun in the answer choices, so I eliminate noun. So it could
Very good.
not be
So
parallel with.
eliminate the noun, right? The noun wouldn't make sense. A go and a spore
Yeah.
wouldn't make sense. Then what?
Well, I have the adjective some. I think it could not be parallel with anything in the answer choices.
Yeah, good. It's not. There is no adjective here.
Yeah.
Some. especially 4 years ago. Okay, good. Then what?
Okay. Then I have the first person, well, past participle verb, who is fertilize.
Very
Uh,
good. Past participle. What can be part to past participle? Another past participle or a present
a
participle,
present
right?
participle, yeah.
Extended or extending only. That means the other three are out. The same thing with a spawn. Now we have to check the meaning. What do we want to make it parallel to spawn or fertilized? They're talking about what extends, the tentacles or the spore.
The tentacles.
Very good. So
Yeah.
we are making parallel to sponge. Now, extending or extended, what are we going to choose?
Extending. It's so extending is cause. Okay, so it's a state, right?
Very good. It's a state. It's not in this case. It is not a cause, right?
Yeah.
Extended. Nice. Very good. You did it nice here. That's the way to do it. Okay. This one was a tricky one, but that's the way you have to start evaluating whether you are making part with a noun, you're making it part to another adjective, etc., etc. Good. Good. Any questions here?
No, just one. First, so I have both fertilize and spawn, and I choose uh spawn as a parallelism because I look first on the answer choices, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Very good. Nice. Now we come over this part. We're talking here about types of nouns, right? Types of nouns. What do we have to say about nouns? So far, we have been saying that a noun is parallel to another noun. Noun parallel to another noun.
Yeah.
Okay, but that's kind of a simplification. Not all nouns are parallel to other types of nouns. We've got four main types of nouns here. Four main types of nouns. And they are not going to be parallel with each other, right? So the first type of noun is this one called a concrete noun. What is a concrete noun? Or all the tangible things. Basically, when you think about a noun, you think about a thing, right? Something you can touch or something that is an idea, right? Definition. House, woman, Monday, those are concrete nouns. So whatever you can touch or whatever can be defined. Is that okay? So that's here our concrete noun. So then we have a different type of noun called the action noun. What is the action noun? It's a noun that has been derived from a verb. So the root is a verb. Example, destruction. So they have taken the verb to destroy, have changed the termination to shun, right? Usually shun is an indication that we are dealing with action nouns, and they have made it a noun, right? Destruction. The same thing with the noun vision, right? Shun. To visualize, they have turned the visualize into vision. Removal, to remove. Also, the termination all is an indicator that you're dealing with these types of action nouns.
Okay.
Or maybe they're just repeating the verb, like in this case with the verb change. Right? To change, and they just repeat the verb, and that becomes a noun. So in this case, those are action nouns. Action nouns are not parallel to concrete nouns, usually. Okay, because one gives you an idea, a definition, a thing. The other one gives you an action. Those are different. And then we have the gerunds. So gerunds, we have two types. What is a gerund? Do you know what a gerund is?
Word like it says there a word ending in ing.
The ing, when they use it as a noun,
Mm,
we already know that the ing, the real name of the ing is present participle, right? So when it is being used as a noun, then it becomes a
article.
gerund.
And you have to use the article or no?
Not always. So when you have a complex gerund, you do, but for a simple one, you don't. For example, if I say going to the movies is fun, that's a gerund. Going to the movies is a gerund. Going, right? So these gerunds, simple gerunds, do not carry an article. They are alone. They are on their own. Okay, going, eating, drinking, playing. Those gerunds. And then you have the complex ones. The complex ones are a little bit tricky. They carry an article. So what happens when you add this article to the gerund? You turn it more into a thing. You make it look more like a thing rather than an action. So when you say that eating, that sounds different than just eating, right? One thing is eating breakfast is good. The other one is that eating of the breakfast was good. You see? So that sounds bad. These complex gerunds sound bad. They're ugly, but they work more as things, whereas the simple gerunds work more as actions. All right. So there are several ways you can actually build this complex gerund. One is to add an article. The other one is to add a possessive, right? For example, her singing, Mike's running. Those are also complex gerunds. Or maybe you can just add a prepositional phrase with off after the gerund. So whenever you put an off prepositional phrase after the ing, you're turning that ing into a complex gerund. Okay, this one here, building of an empire. So those are the four types of nouns. They are not parallel to each other, with the exception of action nouns and complex gerunds. Those two are parallel. An action noun can be parallel to a complex gerund without a problem.
Okay.
Okay, so here we have some common rules. So let's say a simple gerund and a complex one are not parallel. So a gerund with an article and a gerund without one are not going to be parallel. An action noun can be parallel to a complex gerund. That's what we said at the end. And then we prefer not to use complex gerunds because they are ugly. Okay, so even though they're valid, they're accepted, they're ugly. So if we have a better option, we just don't use them. Okay. Any questions so far?
Yeah. I have one question. So
Sure.
the only type of nouns that can be parallel are the action with the complex, but the complex are ugly. We prefer not to use it.
Well, exactly. Yes. So if you have a better, for example, you have two actions, and then the other one has one action and one complex, you go with the one that gives you two action nouns. That looks
Okay,
better.
okay, okay. Okay,
Yeah.
so I will prefer the one who has two actions instead of.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. We would prefer not to use the complex ones unless we're forced to, and there's nothing better.
Okay. Okay, got it.
Okay. Very good. What about number 12?
So I have a list here, right?
Yes, you do.
Uh,
Exactly.
well, it must be parallel. So
Exactly.
I think we'll go with the letter B.
Letter D. Let's see. So what are the elements of this? Let's first
Oh
start
no,
determining
letter B.
B. Very good. So
Yeah,
why?
because I have the splitting, which is parallel with the ones before and the one after.
What are the ones before?
When the ones before is the Earth magnetic field and the onset of ages.
All right, but field is concrete now, though. That's concrete.
Okay.
And onset is action. Splitting is complex gerund. So that wouldn't make too much sense.
Hmm.
Actually, it's not field. Actually, it's reversals. That's the action now. So it's reversals, onset, and splitting. That splitting. That makes sense because those are action nouns, right? And you
Okay.
also have eruptions, which is three action nouns. So there you need an action noun or another action noun or a complex gerund, and you don't have the action noun. They don't give you an option with an action noun, so you have to choose the complex gerund. Okay, but the elements from the list are reversals, the onset, blah blah blah, and the eruptions.
Okay.
Right? That was good though. That was very good.
Okay.
What about this one, number 13?
Hmm. Mm, so yeah, well, I have action nouns here, right?
Yes.
Uh, Tilting is an action noun.
No, really.
It's a verb.
Tilting is a simple gerund, right?
It's a
So simple gerund. So it's a gerund because it's an ing. It shouldn't really be parallel to the other one that is deformations, right?
okay. So
But anyways, they have already made it parallel. So we don't
fluctuations,
have a say there. We have deformation, then we have tilting. Before we have fluctuations,
fluctuations, yeah.
and then what do we have? We don't know, right? So this list, fluctuation, tilting, deformations, what is that list about? That list is more tilting towards being an action noun list.
Yes, an action noun. So I
Very good.
think,
So here you need to have the other two need to be either action nouns or complex gerunds.
yeah. So
You see?
change the letter D and E must be out
Why?
because there is no action noun or a complex gerund there.
Changing what was that?
No, letter D and E.
All right, so let's eliminate it. But changing, what is changing? Action noun or complex
Ah,
gerund?
that's an action noun.
No,
No.
something that ends with an ing is
Ah,
not an
yeah,
action
so
noun.
it's complex gerund. Yeah,
What makes a complex gerund complex?
yeah. Well, the
What is
ing
the difference between a complex and a simple gerund?
complex. Well, the use of the article.
Very good. You start the article or a possessive, right? Do
Yeah.
you see a possessive or an article in there?
No,
So that's what is that?
as a simple gerund,
It's
right?
simple gerund. Simple gerund are not parallel to the other ones.
Oh yeah.
To their formation or changes is an action noun. Why? Because we have some of these nouns, action nouns, that are repeating. They repeat the verb. What you have to ask yourself is change a verb? Yes. Okay, is the same word change a noun also? Yes. Because I can ask you, for example, what's a change, right? So change is a noun, an action noun. That is just repeating the verb to change,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So that's the action noun, changes, in plural, actually. So with these two, what do we do now?
Mm, simple gerund. Okay. So I must change in the measure. So the difference is the one have um, the measured strain across a fossa and variations in.
Hmm.
So there is another parallelism inside each of those.
I don't think so.
No,
I
and
mean, because
variations.
the main connector, the main marker is and is making everything
So
parallel. And I
okay.
don't see another connector.
Oh well, but that is the end of the list, right?
That is the end. Yes, variations is the last one.
And variations in region among the measured strain across a fossa. Well, I don't know. Is something about that difference between in and among?
Okay, that could be a difference in and among. Among is for more than two things, over
Yeah,
two.
more than two things.
In is just for in a place, right?
Yeah,
But I think here there's something easier. Are they saying the same thing or they have different meanings?
change in the measure strain across the fossa. No, that different meaning.
Different meaning, right? So now what do we have to do? We have to check which one keeps the meaning the most similar to the original one, right? That's what we have to do right now.
Yep.
Try to preserve the original meaning.
Change or I think is the maybe the last one
Okay, why do you feel that preserves the meaning more than letter D?
because they are talking about what happened with when an earthquake happened. Oh,
And letter D is not talking about that. Not talking about the earthquake.
It's talking about in the change in the measure strain. It's talking about the strain.
And the original one, where was it changed?
Do you believe that the warning sign for a major earthquake may lose? Mm,
Well, what changed in the original one? What was changing?
well, activities in the earth.
No, no, I'm here. Just focus on this part here. What was changing? You check the difference between the original one and
Okay,
the other two.
okay. The measure strain across a fall. The,
So what is it? What was changing? What was the noun? Just one noun.
okay, the measure, right?
The measured is a noun.
The measure strain across the strain.
The strain,
Yeah,
very good. The measured is not a noun.
it's an adjective.
Strain is a noun,
Yeah.
right? So the strain. So which one preserves that?
Uh, the second one.
Here you have changes in the
Ah,
measurements.
no, no, no.
That's different.
The
That's different. You're
strain.
wrong.
The letter
Letter
D.
D. Okay. So let's be careful with the object. Here we're missing the object.
Okay.
Okay. So we have changing, which is kind of here it was a gerund. Here you have a action now. Changing something. What? Here the string. Here the string also. In the other ones in the measurements. The measurement becomes a noun. So it's not the same story. It's different. Okay. That's why letter D preserves the meaning better. Okay. Letter D. I'm sorry. Very good. So that was parallelism. Now, so to do a little recap of parallelism, what are the important things about parallelism? Number one, memorizing the markers, the keywords. So the parallel markers, right? Fanboys, correlatives, right? Both x and y, either x or y, between x and y, not only x but also y, not x but y, those kind of things. We have to memorize because when we see them and we identify them, then we can apply parallelism. If we don't know them, we are not going to identify them. And we're gonna let him go. You see, and that's not the idea. Number two, when you are practicing parallelism, especially when you do the homework, always do it because of structures. You are doing that correctly, okay? But just keep on doing that because that's the way you train. So when you see and you see in my house, some people say, "What do you have on the right?" In. No, that's you don't have in. You have a prepositional phrase. Let's call things by their name because that's what's going to help you. Because this thing, if you know it's a prepositional phrase, you can make it parallel to about, to via, to through, because those are prepositions also. You see, so you don't need to have in on the left, as long as you have a preposition that could be parallel. You see,
Yeah.
so that's why it's very important for us to call it main clause, subordinate clause, prepositional phrases. In that way, you become, let's say, you have your structures right, and you become more efficient with parallelism. But you're doing good though. All right, you're doing good so far.
Okay.
So that's being a tough lesson. Now we're gonna move over to a lesson that's much more simple. Now, much more simple, which is the lesson about pronouns. Right? Pronouns they tend to be easy. What is a pronoun? A pronoun basically is a word that replaces another word, right? You have a noun here, and you have a he, for example, and noun is Joe, right? So he's replacing Joe. He is the pronoun, and we call Joe the referent. Okay, referent. Referents are usually they have to be before the pronoun. Okay, so basically that's what the pronoun is. It's a word that can replace a noun or another pronoun. So it can replace two things. It either replaces a noun or another pronoun. Basically, that's what the pronoun is. We've got several types of pronouns. We don't care about the relative ones, so we care about them as modifiers, and we're going to talk a lot about them in the modifiers lesson, but not as pronouns. Okay, as pronouns, they really mean nothing to us. Now, as far as indefinite pronouns, we talked a little bit about them in lesson number one, right? What did we say about these pronouns? The ones that end with one, with body, with thing, each. What did we say about them in lesson number one? You remember?
The pronouns that end the singular, right?
Singular. All of them are singular. That's the only thing we said about it. We don't really care about them anymore because they don't have any more theory. So that the only thing we have to know about them is that they're singular. So other than that, we don't care about them. Now, this lesson is going to be basically about the personal pronouns. He, she, you, we, they, right? It. And those pronouns are the ones that have a lot of rules. And then we also have the demonstrative pronouns at the end, this and this and that and those. And so basically, we have two things: personal pronouns and demonstrative pronouns.
Okay.
All right, let's start here with the personal pronouns. So you say personal pronouns are the most common types of pronouns. These pronouns should always replace a noun. So a pronoun is basically its function is to replace a noun or another pronoun, but in this case, these personal pronouns will only replace nouns. Okay, the noun that is getting replaced is called the referent. Now, so for example, we have he, she, it, they, you have we, and then you have you and you have I. Okay, the GMAT will never use you or I. Those are always wrong. The GMAT never goes in on first or second person. We always use third person or first person plural. They do we use we sometimes. This is very uncommon though. Common. The pronouns that are really common and we care about are these ones: he, she, it, they. Okay, those are the pronouns we care about, not the other ones. Now they tell you we're gonna get 3 rules for these pronouns, right? 3 rules by the end of the lesson. But the first one is the most important. It tells you the rule of the referent. If you have one of these pronouns in your whole sentence, you have to make sure that you have a referent. All right. So if you have he is here, period, that's wrong. Why? Because he, you don't know what he is referring to.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have a referent in that case. Okay. So we need to have a referent. Now, talking about the referent, they tell you there are 2 exceptions, right? You and we. As I mentioned before, you will most of the time be wrong. And when we use we, yeah, we don't need a referent when we say we. So we can say something like we are here, period, that's fine. Okay. But that's very, very extremely uncommon. Normally they don't use we, but they may use it, right? So, but that's uncommon. So for any other pronoun, he, she, it, and they, we are going to need a referent, and the referent must be before the pronoun. So if we say, for example, let's remove this. Uh, he is happy. Before, we should have mentioned somebody, Joe, right? Before, not after. That's important. With one exception. We're going to go over the exception right now. So the exception tells you if you have a subordinate clause modifier, so you say because, for example, he was happy, comma, he threw a party. That would be fine. Okay, Joe, I'm not here. I'm sorry. This is Joe. Joe threw a party. So because he was happy, Joe threw a party, and you would say, well, but we have first the pronoun. We have the pronoun first, and then we have Joe, right? Yeah, that's an exception. Why is that allowed in this case? Because you have this he inside a subordinate clause that is modifying something here. So in that case, you can have your pronoun before your referent.
Mm.
Okay, that's the only time though. That's the only time.
The only time is when you have a subordinate clause before.
Yeah, the only time where you have your pronoun before your referent is if it is inside a subordinate clause.
The only time when the pronoun is before the referent. Okay.
Right. All the other times the pronoun has to come after. First you have the referent and then you have the pronoun.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, number 2. Be careful with nouns, right? Sometimes we have nouns that are called appositives. For example, dog food. Dog is a noun, yes, but in this case, it is not behaving as a noun. It is behaving as an adjective, right? When I say I have dog food, I don't have a dog. I have food. You see?
Yeah.
So dog is using adjective. Even though it's a noun, it's working as an adjective. So if later I say it is barking. That's wrong because this it cannot refer to dog because dog in this situation is not a noun. It's more like an adjective.
Okay.
So
Got
this
it.
it wouldn't be able to refer. Okay, that's rule number 2. Rule number 3 tells you Actually, those come from the same referent rule, right? Where we're doing like subtopics from the referent rule. Now, for example, if I have the house of the dog, and then we say it was barking. That's also, it's not completely wrong, but it's very, very ugly, extremely ugly. Why? Because you have an it, you say it was barking, you're trying to refer to the dog, right? You're trying to refer to the dog in this case, with this dog here. What happens though, that this dog is inside a prepositional phrase. Inside a prepositional phrase. Really, when you have the noun, the house of the dog, the main noun is the house, not the dog. The dog is like a slave, it's like a servant, right? So it's very difficult for you to use a pronoun after that to refer to somebody who is the servant, to a noun that is just not important. And that's very difficult. So that's going to be, not even though it's not wrong, it's very ugly. Most of the time, it's going to be wrong.
Okay.
All right. And then also, you have to make sure that your reference must be in the essential part of the sentence. So basically, what does it mean to be in the essential part of the sentence? That it is not isolated within commas, right? So it shouldn't be not inside a modifier between commas. So if I say, for example, Joe, comma, who brought his dog, comma, wants it to run. That's wrong. Why? Because with this word it, I'm trying to refer to dog,
Yeah.
right? But dog is inside a modifier between commas. So this one is just plain wrong. It's not ugly. It's wrong.
Okay.
Okay. So you can have a reference instead of modifier between commas, because then when they give you modifier between commas, you're saying if you remove that modifier, then the meaning that is not affected, right? But in this case, it would be affected,
Okay. Got it.
right? So those are some important things with pronouns. Okay. Now, this one are, we call them the personal pronoun cases. Actually, we should, cases kind of weird. We should call them positions, right? Positions of the personal pronoun. So the pronoun could be in the subject position. If you wanna treat it as a subject, you have these pronouns on the left, right? I, you, he, she, it, we, they. If you want to treat it as an object, you have me, you, him, her, it, us. And if you want to treat it as a possessive, you have my, mine, right? His, hers, those kind of things. Now, the important thing here is that some people, when they see the pronoun, for example, he, and later they see the pronoun him, they believe that those are two pronouns, two different pronouns, and they are not. They are the same pronoun, right? This one is the same as this one, just in different positions. So in that case, we have really the same pronoun. It's just the same pronoun appearing in two different positions, but it's only one. So it is important for us to think this way when we are applying the rules.
Okay.
Right? He and him are the same. She and her are the same thing. They're just in different positions. So let's do this one. Number one. Let's see. Let's start identifying pronouns. And